He called the housing crash. He called the collapse of Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers. He's been harping on the crisis in the Eurozone banking system for years now, so he's just the guy to talk.
Ooh, it's Reggie Middleton.
Greetings all, Reggie Middleton. So, I'm a big user of Samsung mobile products, particularly their phones, which is interesting because I personally am brand agnostic. You know, I don't do brands, I do pure functionality. I don't even do looks so much. Functionality over form, functionality and form over branding. The only brand that truly counts is our brand, okay? So in thinking of this, why do I stick to the Samsung products? Their engineering and innovation, at least in phones, is top notch, okay? That being said, their latest flagship launch, the Note 7, as everybody knows by now, absolute debacle, okay? $17 billion of market cap drop, but I'm sure they're gonna gain some of that back. A big hole in earnings, you know, but let's take a look at it this way. This is a negative for Samsung all the way around. If you run the numbers, 4 million Note 7s produced, just under 100 incidences. Now all of them confirmed. That's not really indicative of a widespread problem, particularly considering the fact that Samsung recalled these phones, did some more investigative analysis, some engineering, relaunched it, and we still had a problem. So definitely not excusing it. You know, if the phone blows up, burns, it's a problem. But do you really think that Samsung would be so careless as to put a defective product out? I'm not even going to answer that question because at this point it's irrelevant. You know, it's perceived to be defective. But you have a less than 1 in 40,000 chance of having your particular Note 7 catch on fire, etc., using the numbers that have been published. Okay, I did a little cursory research. Apple iPhones seem to have a higher blow up and burn incidence rate and definitely a much higher injury rate than the Samsung Notes. From an injury rate perspective, the iPhones are much higher. So why isn't that Apple isn't all over the media? You know, if you do some searches, you can see it. Just do a search for iPhone blowing up, burning iPhone, etc. Okay, why hasn't Apple been forced to do a recall? Well, the answer is, number one, Apple has a much stronger, a much more effective PR campaign engine than Samsung. That should be obvious. Number two, there's an arcane law that actually says that US companies get to approve the recall wording given by the regulatory agency that governs recalls, which is amazing. That doesn't seem to give this particular regulatory agency much power if they have to have the company approve it. If the company doesn't approve, I think they have 10 days or whatever to negotiate the wording. Since when do you get the opportunity to negotiate the wording with someone who is supposed to be a regulatory authority? So with that being said, I think Apple may have been taking advantage of this. This is not a no-go for Apple because Apple is a for-profit company. They have shareholders' interests to look out for. But that is potentially an explanation of why Samsung got hit so hard for something that Apple didn't get hit hard on at all. Now, I hear a lot of pundits saying that this is a big windfall for Apple because the Note 7 is out. It's a big windfall, but I don't know for Apple because there are not a whole lot of Note 7 users who will now jump over to an iPhone 7 Plus. The reason? Well, you know, the iPhone is a dramatically inferior product to the Note 7 from a technical perspective and a functionality perspective. As a matter of fact, the model below the Note 7, the S7, is still drastically superior to Apple's iPhone 7 Plus. What you don't see in the media is that the Note 7 does not have a competitor to Apple. You know, Apple's big iPhone compares to the Samsung S7. The Samsung S7 has the same size screen as the iPhone 7 Plus with a higher resolution, more of a unique form factor with the curved edges, has a better camera, you know, It's a much smaller device, etc., etc. But from a branding perspective, people are comparing the iPhone 7 Plus to the Note 7. Apple does not make a competitor to the Note 7. They make a competitor to the S7, and despite the fact the S7 has been out for 6 or 7 months, the iPhone 7 simply still doesn't compete. Expandable storage, etc., SD cards, we could go down the list. Now, since it's unlikely users of the Note 7 who are looking for things such as styluses, etc., will jump ship and go to iOS, more importantly, would downgrade functionality significantly, who's going to benefit? Well, we have two runners-up, okay, in this high-end price range. We have the new Google Pixel, which Google launched their hardware initiative to compete with their own hardware OEMs at a perfect time. I don't think they knew it, but they did. The problem is Google doesn't have wide availability, so this is sold out. So in mind share, Google potentially, will benefit. In actual sales, I think there was more demand than supply to begin with. Next up, the fellow Korean manufacturer, LG Electronics. Now, LG does make a competitor to the Note 7, one of the few entities that does make a viable competitor, and that's the LG V20. Again, that's a 5.7-inch screen, a large screen, just like the Note 7, unlike Apple's iPhone. It has very advanced photography, very advanced audio-video, the 4 DAC system, and it has removable batteries and headphone jacks. Most people don't understand that LG is sitting in the catbird seat to benefit from the Note if they can get the product out fast enough. Okay, it's slated to be coming out late October. And there's the fact that a lot of people probably will not give out their Note 7s anyway, because I think a lot of the Note class buyers are very analytical, and they are probably going to do the math and see there's a very, very slim chance of something happening to the phone. But whether here or there, Samsung is not selling anymore, so that whole revenue stream is gone. Okay, thought I'd give the 2 bits. Signing out on the mobile stuff. Peace.